أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه كل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينة نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وأروة مثقى قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. The verse that I recited is from Surah Fatir, verse number 28. In reference to this entire week in which we commemorate the Shahadat of our sixth Imam, Rais Madhab Jafri, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. You know, there are two dates that are mentioned for his martyrdom. One is the 15th of Shawwal, another is the 25th of Shawwal. And therefore, many places commemorate the Majlis either on 15th or on 25th, as has been the case for many other Masumin as well, that there are multiple dates for their Viladat and Shahadat that are mentioned in the books of history. Similar is the case with our sixth Imam. Therefore, thought it would be nice that we discuss about him, and inshallah next week we will have the Majlis commemorating his Shahadat. For that, I chose this ayat from Surah Fatir, verse number 28, where Allah says, only those of Allah's servants having knowledge fear him. Innama yakhshallaha min ibadihi ulama. That means, in other words, those who are knowledgeable are the ones who really fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, if you see someone who seems like someone who's knowledgeable to you, because our assessments about people are different. We look at someone and we say, well, you know, mashallah, very knowledgeable person. But if you don't see any fear of God, you know, what does that mean, fear of God? That means that person being careful in his affairs or in her affairs. That means being careful when it comes to what they say, what they do, what they eat, and all of the affairs where there's fear of God, that means not obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is present. That person is really qualified to be knowledgeable. Otherwise, anyone can go ahead and acquire knowledge, yet lacking the skill. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran gave us this criteria that only muttaqeen are those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who are muttaqeen, those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones who are knowledgeable. So with knowledge comes the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear, again, as I mentioned before, being careful, God wary. That means having the understanding that God is always watching over you. There's not an incident that happens that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala overlooks. So he says, only those of Allah's servants having knowledge fear him. Indeed, Allah is almighty and all forgiving. Birth of our sixth Imam is in the year 83 after Hijrah in the city of Medina. And his Shahadat is also in the year 148 after Hijrah in the city of Medina. We look at it from the aspect that both Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, share the day of birth. Both were born on the 17th day of Rabiul Awwal. And from that aspect, we can draw a conclusion that Prophet brought the deen to its peak to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. But then after the downfall of this religion, this deen, this madhab in the hands of Umayyads and the Abbasids, comes a time for our sixth Imam where he revives the teachings of this madhab. And therefore, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, shares from this aspect the birthday with Rasulullah, the one who brought the religion and the one who revived the religion, brought it back to its original sources, brought it back to what it was before, because people had forgotten. There were so many different segments of this deen had come about. The original shape was so distorted that someone had to go ahead and intervene and revive the teaching. And that's why some people mistakenly think that we follow the madhab of our sixth Imam. No, the madhab of sixth Imam is known because of his revival of the religion. Otherwise, we follow the madhab of Rasulullah. We follow the madhab Alawi. We will follow the madhab Hasani, madhab Husayni. And it's not just Madhab Ja'fari, right? It is called Ja'fari due to the fact that he was able to revive the teachings back to its original form and shape. Person by the name Saleh ibn al-Aswad, he says, سمعت جعفر بن محمد يقول سلوني قبل أن تفقدوني فإنه لا يحدثكم أحد بعدي بمثل حديثي. He said, only one other person in the history had said these words, and that was Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, who said, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni, ask me before I leave you or no longer amongst you. I said, sixth Imam said the similar words, repeating after Amir al-Mu'mineen, that ask me before I leave amongst you, because nobody after me will speak to you the way I will talk to you, saying that there will be people from my progeny who have the ability to talk to you in the same way, but they will not be given the opportunity. You know, the difficult period for our imams is about to arrive after my demise. The demise of sixth Imam takes place. Now you look at the life of our seventh Imam, the struggles that he went through, 14 years in prison, and then the Abbasids' cruelty to him. Similar is the fact with our eighth Imam, that how he spent his entire life, all that, and then eventually the Shahadat far away from the city of Medina. And then our ninth Imam and our 10th Imam, their struggles are all there as well. So our sixth Imam, he repeated these words of Amir al-Mu'mineen saying, what? Saluni qabla an tafqiduni. Ask me before I'm no longer amongst you, because nobody from me, amongst me, will speak to you the way I will talk to you. Malik ibn Anas, who was the faqih of Medina, he says that I entered upon Jafar ibn Muhammad. He offered me a pillow and valued me and said, oh Malik, I adore you, which would cheer me up. He said, Kana rajulan la yakhlu min ihday thalath khisalin. He said he was someone, Malik is saying about our sixth Imam, someone who was always, he was never without any of these three khisal, these three habits or these three features. He always had one of these three features with him. What were these three features? Imma sa'iman, wa imma qa'iman, wa imma dhakiran. That whenever I would enter upon sixth Imam, I would find him to be in one of these three states. Either he was fasting, either he was praying, qa'iman, praying, either he was busy in doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ مِنْ عُظَمَاءِ الْعِبَادِ وَأَكَابِرِ الزُّهَّادِ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَكَانَ كَثِيرَ الْحَدِيثِ وَطَيِّبَ الْمَجَالِسَ وَكَثِيرَ الْفَوَائِدِ. He said he was amongst the most exalted of the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the biggest of the ascetics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who feared him a great deal. And then he spoke a lot, advising us, giving us advices and nasaya. He was a very good company, and he was very benefiting to me, to the extent that I benefited a great deal from him. Ibn Abi Amir, he says, when we were going to Hajj, he said, I asked Imam why he wouldn't say the talbiyah. Those of you who have gone for Hajj, it is mandatory for you to recite the talbiyah once, and then it is recommended to repeat the talbiyah. Labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, labbaik, la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika laka labbaik. It is mandatory to say this at least once after you have put on the ihram. So therefore people, try to memorize this. Those who are going for Hajj, they try to memorize this so that they have it and memorize when they have to say it. Otherwise, of course, you can look at the book and you can read it as well. But nonetheless, we say this, and it is a talbiyah which is required at least wajib once, and then it is recommended to repeat the sentence over and over. He said, I was traveling with our sixth Imam, and Abi Amir, he says that we were going to Hajj, and I asked Imam why he wouldn't say talbiyah, as we were repeating it ever so often. He said, Imam responded, كيف أجسر أن أقول لبيك اللهم لبيك وأخشى أن يقول عز وجل لي لا لبيك ولا صدق. He said, how can I go ahead and say labbaik, Allahumma labbaik? What if Allah responded by saying, no, there's no labbaik for you. There's no prosperity for you. Just imagine, sixth Imam, you're the Ma'soom, you're the Imam of the Ummah, and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's saying that I don't want to say labbaik after having said my wajib labbaik. I don't want to continue saying it, lest Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds back to me saying, no, there's no labbaik for you. When that's the case, when our sixth Imam is showing the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where should our fear be? So the ayat that I recited and the hadith that I shared with you regarding our sixth Imam, it revolves around the ilm of Imam. And that's why his contributions towards the deen is that how he was able to revive the teachings of the religion. So the hadith about the knowledge, Imam says, "Utlubu al-ilma wa tazayyanu ma'ahu bil-hilm." He says, seek knowledge and decorate it with forbearance. And if I just focus only on this hadith and disregarded everything else that I have brought, it would be sufficient, because this is golden words from our sixth Imam. He says, "Utlubu al-ilma wa tazayyanu ma'ahu bil-hilm wal-waqar. وتواضعوا لمن تعلمونه العلم وتواضعوا لمن طلبتم منه العلم." He says, seek knowledge and decorate it with forbearance, with hilm and dignity, بالوقار. So both of these things. So you go ahead and you seek knowledge, and then you adopt these two habits, and you decorate your ilm with two things. One is forbearance, and second is dignity. That means there's not a person who's knowledgeable yet not dignified. There's not a person who's knowledgeable yet does not have any forbearance and hilm. Hilm, forbearance, and dignity is something which is lazim for the one who has acquired knowledge. And if these two things are lacking, then it is just empty knowledge and it's not beneficial whatsoever. So he says, when you seek knowledge, go ahead and decorate this knowledge with dignity and waqar, which is dignity, and as well as forbearance, that people come to you, they ask you questions, they're going to go ahead and try and seek knowledge from you, and you show lack of patience. There's no hilm in you. You don't show compassion towards them. This knowledge is not going to be beneficial to you. And then he says, be humble with your students and as well as your teachers, and do not be a tyrant scholar, as it will deprive you of your right. Now, there's so much to say in regards to this hadith, but I'll leave it up to your, adhan aliyah, that you have been a student of this maktab for such a long time, that you've heard these words and the kalam of Ma'asumin alayhi salatu wassalam, that you'll be able to decipher the further elaboration of this hadith. Fourth Imam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, was asked, who would be Imam after you? He replied, my son Muhammad al-Baqir, who will split the knowledge open. And then after him, his son Jafar Sadiq. He was asked, you're all Sadiq. Why is sixth Imam given the title of a Sadiq? To which Imam replied, because Prophet said there will be another Ja'far, which is Kadhab. And in order to go ahead and differentiate between the two, he's named Sadiq. As far as the time of the Imamat is concerned, Imam's era was very tumultuous. From the political aspect, when you look at it, Imam, inherits this mess of Banu Umayyah, which is coming towards its end, and then the mess which is being started by Banu Abbas. So they were looking forward to it. So there are three things that we can understand from the time of the era in which our sixth Imam lived. Number one, Islam had the ability to show prowess, the proficiency and expertise on every ground, whether educational, practical, or political. If a rightful leader comes along, provides them and equips them with this sort of ilm and knowledge, then people will come, as Imam proved it. That when he started preaching, he started treating, he started providing this ilm, while he had the opportunity to do so, his forefathers did not have the time to do so. You saw all these great ulama come into existence. So that means the prowess, the proficiency, expertise was there. It just needed to be, proven and provided for the people. So that ability existed in the ummah. So whether it's the educational, practical, or political ground. Number two, rulers were off track and deviated from the real path of Islam. They had no idea what Islam's real teachings were. Number three, communities still had the guts to speak against the rulers. Up until that point, people still stood up and they were able to say something. And after which, of course, there's another downfall that comes in. So our sixth Imam witnessed all three of these matters thoroughly. Imam lived for 40 years during the reign of Umayyads and saw the rulers such as Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, Walid ibn Abdul Malik, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, Walid ibn Yazid, Yazid ibn... So many of them came one after another, that their reign was, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, less sometimes, taking life of their brothers, taking life of their father, taking life of their son, so that they could jump to the power. So much corruption that Imam ﷺ had witnessed. After the year 132, when Banu Abbas came into power, Imam had to deal with people like Abu Abbas ibn Saffah, and Mansur Dawaniqi. And of course, the majority of the time was spent under the tyrant rulership of Mansur Dawaniqi. But Imam refrained from taking any part in the revolutionary movements that came about during the period of the imamate of our sixth Imam. So there were many revolutions that came during the time of our sixth Imam, which Imam refrained from doing so because he had a bigger picture in his perspective. While he still supported the efforts of these groups, which were primarily from Ali Muhammad. Because these people were from Ali Muhammad, they had inclination to cause some sort of reform and to revolutionize. Imam supported their ideas, but Imam refrained from taking part in it. That tells us as well that Imam had a bigger picture in his perspective, and he knew from his ilm ghaib as to these uprisings will have some sort of impact, but they will not be long lasting. While they still have to take place in order to be a continuous opposition so that these people don't sit or rest peacefully. Imam was under the constant surveillance by the governments due to his intellectual and the familial attachment. So people who were coming to see Imam, that silsila would have broken off. If Imam had taken part in any of these political revolutions and uprisings, that silsila would have been broken off. And as well as people, because some of them were family members. His every move was under scrutiny and was difficult to do anything. So Imam refrained from it. That's one reason. Number two, Imam had been witnessing that Ummah was not honest in their claims from the past. A lot of these people stood by the Ma'asumeen prior to our sixth Imam, yet they stranded Imams when they saw, this is not going to work out, so let's just go ahead and flee. And that's not just with Ma'asumeen, even from the time of Rasulullah. Look at all the battles. In fact, today is the Battle of Uhud taking place. And if you look at Battle of Uhud as well in the history, what had happened in Battle of Uhud, that as soon as the chant and the rumor was, circulated that Prophet has died. Mata Muhammad, someone said that. And you know how it spreads, a rumor spreads like a fire in a jungle. People started fleeing the scene. They left. So if your leader is dead, at least go and see and confirm. They started fleeing to the extent that Amir al-Mu'mineen had to bring Rasulullah out where he was struck and he was injured. He brought him out and he said, Hadha Muhammad, Hadha Muhammad. No, Prophet is still alive. Prophet is still here. He has not died. And this is just merely a rumor. But you were able to see the faces of those who left Prophet and stranded to the extent that Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebuked these people. Ayat of Quran came down. Afa in mata, if Prophet was to die, or qutila, if he was to be killed, in qalabtum ala aqabikum, you're going to return back to your, go back to your old ways, that you're going to leave him. If he died, what if he dies? The deen is still intact. So Rasul is the one who brought this religion. If he dies, you're going to leave the religion all by itself? You should not have done so. So Quran went ahead and rebuked these people as well. So from that aspect, Imam knows that these people did what? Their history is not good. They have left and stranded Prophet. They have stranded Amir al-Mu'mineen. They betrayed our second Imam. And of course, the tale of our third Imam, Imam Hussein, how they stranded him. So their history is not that good. If I was to stand up like the previous Imams did, this would end up happening as well. There was no law, there was no rule, akhlaq or madhab in front of these tyrants. These rulers were basically there for their own, personal interest. They would do anything for their interest. And therefore, Imam refrained from taking part. But there are three main inqilabat that took place in the time of our sixth Imam. Of course, I won't have time to go in the depths of all three of them, but I'll just highlight so that we have a historical picture of the life of our sixth Imam and what he faced. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the first is the inqilab of Zayd ibn Ali. Zayd ibn Ali, his inqilab takes place in the year 121 after Hijrah. He was a faqih. He was the uncle of our sixth Imam. He was brother of our fifth Imam and son of our fourth Imam. So his credibility checks out. Someone who compiled Sahifa Sajjadiyah. He's called and known as Zayd Shaheed in the history books. So he was fed up with the deteriorating condition of Islam and the Muslim, and he wanted to take a stand. Our sixth Imam respected Zayd very much, knew the outcome of his inqilab with his knowledge of the unseen, and the people of Kufa will not show loyalty to him, and that's what happened. Zayd ibn Ali was martyred, his body was exhumed from after burial and hanged. Imam ﷺ wept and he said, I wish you had drowned his body before it was exhumed. Why did you even go ahead and bury it when you knew that these people will go ahead and desecrate the body? It would have been better had you drowned the body so these people would not have gained access to his body and they would not have desecrated it the way they did. Understand that Zayd was so frustrated that he had to take these steps. Imam said this. Even Abu Hanifa supported Zayd ibn Ali publicly, announced zakat to be spent for his movement. For this, governor of Kufa threw Abu Hanifa into jail. He was able to escape to Mecca and then return back at the time of Banu Abbas. So to the extent that Zayd ibn Ali had support from all of these people shows you the liability that he had, of course, first of all, but the legality of his actions. Second is the downfall of the Umayyads in 132, when the reign ended after Banu Umayyah ruled for about 83 years. And that is the promise that was in Quran as well. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. Alf shahr is 1,000 months. 1,000 months is 83 years, according to some riwayat. It was the prophecy regarding the reign of Banu Umayyah and their 83 years of power. So, of course, they came in with the intention to do what? With the intention to go ahead and return the glory back to Ahlul Bayt. This is what we're doing. Banu Abbas, their shi'ar and their slogan was what? That the rights of Ahlul Bayt have been stripped and taken away. We want to return that back to them. So it was a good chant. It was a good slogan. You get a lot of people signing up. You see these petitions that come these days, right? That so-and-so petition, sign this petition, sign that petition. And then you find that someone is endorsing it. So-and-so is endorsing it. You jump on it as well. Someone important is endorsing it. We see the same thing. These people had these false claims that, look, we are not here for our own. We are here to give it back to Ahlul Bayt. It's their right. It belongs to them. We don't want anything to do with it. And with that, they got a lot of support from the public. And when a lot of support came, they were able to oust the Banu Umayyad and they were able to take power as the leaders of Banu Abbas. But of course, what they did afterwards is known to everyone. So we see over here that our sixth Imam was summoned from Medina, but since there was no excuse to kill in the time of Banu Abbas, Imam was summoned so that they go ahead and somehow try to persecute Imam. He was told to go back. Mansur too summoned Imam in his reign a few times to Iraq, but couldn't take Imam's life. He even thought of including Imam into his government. Imam refused. And this is the response that Imam gave, and I want you to pay attention to this response. Imam responded by saying, he refused. He wrote in his letter to Mansur. Well, Mansur had written, why don't you come and, join me and see, things for yourself? Imam replied, I don't have the world in my possession. He said, why don't you come and join and see me, how people come and see me all the time? Imam responded, I don't have the world in my possession for which I come to see you, nor do you have the hereafter in your possession that you can give it to me. Your khilafat is in a favor from Allah that I may congratulate you, nor do you consider it to be a musibat that I may come and console you. Wassalam. So Imam responded, and this requires courage, of course, right? You're speaking to the Khalifa of the time, and how dare someone speak to the Khalifa of the time? If you spoke, people had to ask for aman before they would open their mouths. Imam ﷺ responded saying that we Ahlul Bayt, we, regardless of what is happening, we will speak the truth, and that's how Imam spoke. The third inqilab, and I'll conclude with this, is by Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, known as Nafs Zakiyya, took place in the year 145 after Hijrah, 3 years prior to the Shahadat of our sixth Imam. In the year 136, when Mansur became the ruler, he started a new wave of oppression and killing. Nafs Zakiyya became frustrated and decided to take stand against him. Imam Sadiq had stopped his father of Nafs Zakiyya and warned him of the results as well, but he made Medina center of inqilab, got himself killed. His son Ali was killed in Egypt. His other son Abdullah was killed in present day Sindh in Karachi. Abdullah Shah Ghazi is the son of Nafs Zakiya. His other son was arrested in Yemen and killed. His brother was poisoned in Morocco, and that's how the entire family was wiped out. So his stance was also there, which marked as a revolution. I will bring you to conclusion that insan, it's a natural tendency to go ahead and remember your deceased. Go ahead and revive or revere those who were personalities and revere them by associating something with them. So we live in this country. You find that the founding father is George Washington. You find his face on the dollar bill. You find there's a city which is named after him. You find there's a state which is named after him. You find a renowned university which is named after him. You find that there are airports that are named after him. Isn't that the case? All of these things are named after the founder of United States. We look at Ali Saud, we ask them one thing. You don't want to name a university, a city, or an airport after the Imams of Ahl Bayt. The least you could do is not desecrate the graves of these Ahl Bayt. You don't want to name anything. You don't want to revere them with anything. We're not asking you to do so. But the least you could do is leave their graves alone and do not desecrate them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq and ability. A day comes as we are on the cusp of it. 100 years would have passed since the desecration of Jannatul Baqi, that a day comes that inshallah those graves are revived and before the zuhur of Imam of our time. Inna asal hadith wa ablagh al-mawida kitabullah a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته وغضبه وبسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفحا نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف للعباد بجوده والعباد المذنبين بعلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا لصفيه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة النساء العالمين وبرة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدء والطغيان هادم أبنة الشرك والنفاق حاصل فر البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام متصلة الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه وجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات والزيادة الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحلو ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحلو بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. من يذكر فتنفع الذكرى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. ऐसा connected नहीं है तो अच्छा ऐसा you're gonna have to move closer क्योंकि एक से ज़्यादा का वो गैप नहीं कर सकते थोड़ा सा otherwise you have to stand on these marked places वो अभी उसको नहीं ये सही ये कनेक्ट सलात जुमा الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. ربنا أفرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وقدر حمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد. تسبيح فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. All together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك روعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For all the people who sponsor this Friday University program, as well as your own Mahmoud and those ulama that we just lost in the recent past in India due to COVID. Please remember all of them in your surah. Yeah. So, also, the society said this desire comes to the number together 5 times for all those people who are going through difficult times, suffering, struggling physically, spiritually, financially, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring an end to all of their suffering. Let's recite this ayah 5 times together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربي أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف يا رحمة الضريف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تسبيح فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستقيم مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك
اللهم صل على محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله، السلام عليكم نبي الله، السلام عليكم حبيب الله، السلام عليكم يا رسول الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله، السلام عليكم وعلى جدك إبراهيم وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليكم يا ولد الغرباء، السلام عليكم وأهلنا وضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليكم يا شمس الشموس عن المسلمين، أيها المسلمون يا رب المرسلين صلى الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليكم صاحب رسول السلام، السلام عليكم وعلى سيدنا السلام عليكم شريك القرآن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل اللهم وجهك وجعلنا منا وعليكم السلام ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Takbir.